I think you had a hectic presentation from Professor Dr. Ravi Kumar regarding the medical applications of AM. He has shown some of the case studies that we have done here in NIT Warangal with Pananiya and Mahavir hospitals. So, so we are coming to the last stage of this 5-day workshop, and I think you had a very fruitful and productive sessions all these 5 days, and I think I hope all these sessions are fruitful, and maybe you got some ideas like what are the areas in which you can go in depth, because this is just a overview of all the aspects of AM, additive manufacturing or 3D printing. Now, anyway, as usual, like we are coming to the last stage. That is, you know, after the in history of technology, what we see is the technology comes first, then standardization comes next. So, and additive manufacturing field is so new. Still, we are still in the very beginning stage of standardization, observing standardization protocols in AM. Even though some efforts have been started in, say, the efforts have started in as late as 2009. So, in a way, comparing with mechanical engineering, so I think this AM has started after 200 years. So we are still in the beginning stages because AM standards were initiated in 2009 by ASTM, and subsequently in 2011, I think ISO. So anyway, we are going to see in depth those aspects in my. So I hope you had a heavy lunch, but try to concentrate on the lecture, because you have this is only the last one to cover. And anyway, I will try to make it as interesting as possible, because this is not a very interesting topic for most of you, because you are more worried about the technology, the R&D version. But actually, in standard, there is a lot of scope for R&D, which I will be discussing with you. But unfortunately, that may not be, that R&D efforts may not be directed towards academic, but more on how to design protocols, how to evolve foolproof testing methods, how to standardize certain things, process parameters of a particular process or feedstock. So now coming to the outline of my presentation. So this is how I plan to do it. That is introduction, ASTM and ISO standard, joint plan session on ASTM and ISO, and then new standards, future development conclusions. Right. So as here we had a tagline. Great things happen when the world agrees. All right. This is a very, what do you call, this tagline is a very appropriate statement, right? Because because unless people agree with each other, standards cannot be implemented. So that's how, like, the appropriateness of the technology. So Let us start with the definition, right? That is, standard is something used as a measure, norm, or model in comparative evaluations. So we have for SI units. So we have the kg, meter, everything is now defined in a very precise manner, right? So it can be a norm, model in comparative evaluation. A standard can be defined as a set of technical definitions and guidelines, how to instructions for designers, manufacturers, and users. So uh, unless, see, in mechanical, unfortunately, in mechanical engineering particularly, these are very important, because the process sometimes decides the quality of the product. So you need to specify, like, right from design to manufacturing, you have to specify precisely what you are going to do. So that's how these standards help us, right? Standards give world-class specifications for products, services, and systems to ensure quality, safety, and health. See, for example, like now ISO 9000 certification, or Indian quality certification, IS 14,000. So these are all what you call, why we ISO certification is needed is because that means you are sticking to certain minimum standards. See, just like even in educational institutions, now you have NBA. So NBA has defined everything, and all these standards, they evolve over a period of time. If you take NBA, initially it was input based accreditation system. Then they said like process. Now the latest NBA says it is outcome based. So they say like finally the proof of pudding is output. What is the kind of quality output that you're generating out of an institution? So in fact, we have applied for NBA accreditation, and we got most of the courses 6 years straight away. So that means we have adhered to certain standards which are as per the expectations of that NBA specifications, the guidelines, right? So we have exactly followed there, and there are evaluators, and finally it is NBA which has given the certification to us, and now that is helping us to promote ourselves at global level, right? So these standards are very important. If an industry or a service like education or hotel industry or banking, all these services, goods, they should adhere to certain specifications, requirements, guidelines, and characteristics, right? So that's how, like, in fact, uh, that is how it kickstarts an industry, right? Now people know, if we have to start an educational institution, what are the minimum things that they should establish, so that in future they are eligible for NBA accreditation. Whereas this was not the case around 30 years back, or when NIT was started. There are no international bodies, neither national bodies to certify these institutions, saying that these are good, these are bad. Or like if you take the latest NIRF ranking, see how elaborate the protocols, and how to measure things, so quantify things. That is all happening because now educational system has now become mature. But the same thing cannot be said about AM. So anyway, let us go into the depth of the uh, our system. So here, uh, Standards give businesses, consumers confidence that the goods and services they are developing or using are safe, reliable, and will do the job they are intended. Say, for example, like once we got an NBA accreditation, like certain foreign universities are ready to uh, give some kind of exemption regarding the students' credits, right? So that is how like this goes on, builds up some kind of confidence in the our stakeholders. Standards help laws and regulation consistent. Products that comply with standards have a competitive over products that don't in. So anyway, like if you want to export to European Union, you need to have basic ISO certification. Then only they will at least qualify you to quote for you to quote. So that has become a minimum. See, you can grow beyond the quality basic requirement. Like for example, certain institutions doesn't need all these basic things. Like for example, if you take a institution like ISB, they have gone beyond the requirements of AICTE requirement. They are, and now they have a ranking of 19 in worldwide in management. So whereas these standards only help you to maintain certain minimum standards, but to excel in an industry, we have to think beyond these, complying with these standards. This is only to ensure that this is the bottom line. Okay, to ensure that fit for their purpose. So that means like this is that means is it good enough? So in India, like government insists us that you buy goods which are certified by ISI. Does it have a ISI mark? Why it is? Because government is taking the responsibility to say that it is fit for the purpose which was for which it is designed, right? So that is what we say. That is what we mean by. In fact, this fit for that purpose, it is actually a terminology used by one of the quality gurus by name Joseph M. Juran. So we have imported his what do you call usage here. Coming to history of standardization, you can say Eli Whitney is the father of standardization, and incidentally, he is also father of interchangeability. So if you and me are replacing spare part just like that by going into the market and replacing the corresponding one, we should always thank this man, Eli Whitney. And there is a big story on how he went about inventing this concept of interchangeability while supplying arms to the US Army. So in fact, that is a interesting episode. But anyway, we'll skip it because of lack of time. And then actually standardization and technology, they go together. See, for example, like John Wilkinson has invented boring machine. From then onwards, consistency in the human production has happened, mechanical production. See, prior to 1775, in order to make a what you call gun were never in a standard format. If a part of a gun is what you call is worn out, only the mechanic who has fabricated that, then that fellow only can he can make a matching part, because there is no standardization. But once these mechanical devices like boring machine and automatic screw cutting machine by Henry Maudslay, and say that's why if Eli Whitney is able to introduce the concept of interchangeability, it is because of the prior two inventions, that is invention of Oh, sorry, there is a small correction. It is 1797. Henry Maudsley's. It is not 1897. I will correct it afterwards. So Henry Maudsley in 1797 and 1775 boring machine was invented by John Wilkinson. So these two people, because of their technical invention, Eli Whitney could implement the standardization, because only mechanical automatic machinery can only in a way help you to implement standardization. In fact, one of the reasons for James Watt making steam engine successfully is because of he has used John Wilkinson's boring machine to bore those cylinders to an accuracy which is acceptable to them during that time. So anyway, subsequently, because of Henry Maudsley's invention of screw cutting machine, Whitworth has proposed a screw standard, and now it goes by those his name, Whitworth screw threads. And then with regard to process standardization, this was initiated by F.W. Taylor, who is nothing but who is considered as a father of scientific management. He has brought in process standardization. That means he said, like, for every process, there is a standard way of doing things. And to find out that standard way of doing things, you should do experimentation and try various methods and select a method which is best to the process. So that is this approach to work has in a way facilitated for introducing standardization in process also. And then subsequently, anyway, American Society for Testing and Materials was launched to introduce standardization in manufacturing. Particularly, why this was invented is because why this was society was started is because America was going through a lot of rapid expansion in railway networks. So they were trying to put a railway lines to all the states, 50 states in years, and there was a need for standardizing the rails that were being used by the railway, different rail companies. So while procuring rails, they have found that each supplier is following his own way of making it, and that has created a lot of chaos. Then this society was started, and they said, like, unless it is certified by this ASTM, no contractor should accept, or government should not accept contractors' work unless it is certified by AST. So in that way, like, it started with railroads, railway networks, and then subsequently other industries subsequently developed, and ASTM is now a very, very big organization consisting of around 160 member countries, and then and now they have evolved standards for almost for 12,000 kind of standards were evolved under ASTM, and in fact it precedes even ISO, whereas ISO was formulated in 1947, but whereas ASTM was far ahead of ISO. And now why standards are needed means ensuring interoperability. That means in a way like interchangeability. That means if you're not in your house, like if your bulb is fused, what you're doing is you are going to market and buying a new bulb, and it exactly fits there. That means interoperability. That means because every bulb manufacturer, he sticks to the same standard. So that's why your life has become easier. And then it creating market. When you follow standards, you get access to markets. Like for example, unless you have an ISO 9000 certification, you can't enter into European market. Right. Then provide source of knowledge. So naturally, you are forced to go through a standard. Automatically, you will study and see, like, what are the reasons, what is the process that you should honor to make yourself eligible for being acceptable to the market. So in that way, it provides source of knowledge, creating market acceptance, same thing. Then facilitating business interaction, right? So you can communicate with other stakeholders to facilitate communication, measurement, commerce, and manufacturing. So anyway, we are only emphasizing once again about how it can help us in communicating with the other stakeholders. So coming to AM additive manufacturing industrialization, like see, three things are necessary. One is qualification, standards, and certification. So that means this is how like the entire industrialization happens. So you come with standardization, then you say like what are the necessary qualifications that one should possess to enter into an industry, and then there should be some kind of third party agency who can certify your work. Like just like see, we are part of APET for NBA accreditation. So NBA of India was given the responsibility of certifying the institutions in India, but the parent organization is in US, right? So somebody for that certification also they have to be trained. So that is how like the first of all you have to work out qualifications, then standards, and then finally certification. So that like for example, most of the products they should go through the ISI scrutiny in India, so that they say like this product is worthy of usage for the intended purpose. Okay, so standards standards can ensure process control, product quality assurance, defined levels of criticality, reduction of risk. So actually, when you are, this is another important aspect of the standards. Like that means people when they are making as per a given standard, they are reducing the risk of using that particular product. Say if like for example, making a particular vehicle crash worthy of, like or like we are insisting now that most of the vehicles that are going to be moving on the road, they should stick to the Bharat 6. So that means when you know that a particular vehicle is certified as Bharat 6 complying the engine, it has an engine, automatically your defined level of assurance is given, is offered. So in that way, when most of the vehicles are sticking to Bharat 6, naturally you feel safe saying that like these vehicles are pushing less amount of pollutants onto the air, right? So that is, and then sometimes it lead to reduced cost, right? Because if you have many kinds of proprietary standards, then you don't get the economies of scale. But whereas once you follow standards, the volumes are going to automatically larger, and you can go to new markets, spread your product, and then facilitate larger adoption, impart trust and confidence. That is what I said. It imparts trust. When you say like the Supreme Court said like you can't move any vehicles which are Bharat 4, so you have to discontinue. Only from April 1st they said like most of the vehicles that are produced in India, they have to automatically stick to the Bharat 6 pollution norms, right? And certification and assurance. So this is again given by some various agencies in the case of automobile sector, but that kind of certification and assurance unfortunately is yet to be developed for AM technologies, because because the standards, the committee on standardization has come for AM only in 2009. It is hardly 11 years of maturity. Number of standards published by ISO, ASTM 25 standards currently under development. Like for example, like here you can see general standards, AM process and equipment standards, application specific requirements, aerospace, automotive, and then we have finished parts, right? Post processing kind of, and then feedstock materials like the polymers, powders, metal powders. So this is how like you try to develop various standards. Like for example, general AM standards is AM technology test methods. Like you give general guidance here. Already 25 for 25 kind of standards they have already developed, but 50 plus are still in the pipeline. That means like it is not a simple thing. Like to, even though for some of us it appears like 11 years is a long time, but to make all the people come together agreeing to a particular process or protocol is really hard, because there are so many players in the, and each player will be trying to dominate and put his own methods and try to rub those methods on others who may not be interested in it or who may be jealousy of implementing it, right? So you have to bring all the people to a common platform, and that is not a simple task. So hierarchy of, so it starts with the general standards, right? And then like concepts, common requirement or generally, and then category standards, that is material category or process category. Like for example, AM standards have said most of the AM processes can be categorized under 7, right? Powder bed, so many, which Ravi Kumar and others have covered, no? So, and especially standards like for specific materials, like so this ASTM F42 is the committee for ASTM, and whereas for ISO technical committee 261. So for example, as I said, like we have started thinking on standardization of AM processes only in 2009, even though Chuck Hull has invented this technology, AM technology, in 1983, but it started with that what you call photosensitive polymers, that is stereolithography. But to come to standards level, it took almost what you can say 26 years, right? So that is that means now the industry is slowly maturing, right? So whereas ISO has started a bit lately than the ASTM, that is 2011. So here the ASTM F42 means additive manufacturing. So they select 7 categories of what you call there are 2 technical committees, ASTM F42 and then ISO technical committee 261, and then we have just one minute. The largest of these ISO was founded in 1947. As I said, it consists of 162 countries, and then 200 operates in 200 countries. So anyway, ISO and the ASTM have come together in 2015 actually to end what you call duplication in their work.
say for example, like if you take the structure of AM standards, as I said, like it follows a kind of hierarchy, like general top level AM standards, then category of AM standards, then specialized AM standards. For example, if you take like a general AM standards, it starts with, in ASTM it is called F2992 12A, whereas in ISO it is called 17296-1. Combined one is called as 529. So if a standard starts with F means it is definitely a ASTM standard, and whereas if a standard starts with ISO 172 means it is exclusive to ISO, whereas ISO ASTM will start with, that code starts with 52. So this is where you can find out which standards have been adopted for which kind of purpose. So here we have a process materials, then test methods, then data design and data formats. Like for in the first class we have talked about AMF, additive manufacturing file formats. So that is part of this design and data formats. And then coming to, so you have for standards for raw materials, process and equipment, finished parts. So under raw material, again there is subcategories. There is a separate code for metal powders, polymer powders, photopolymer resins, ceramics, like this. And then within this, again subcategory, specialized category is, that is material specific size specification, material specific chemical composition, right? Say for example, metal powders, material specific specification means how much, what should be the average powder size. If it is polymer, what should be the chemical composition? If it is material specific means if it is resins, what should be the viscosity? So that is how, like, you are going into depth and depth as you go into the down and down of these standards. Like similarly, you can see the same kind of strategy is followed in a hierarchical way. Like it is process category, then process specific standards, then finished parts. So there is a mechanical test methods, then metal polymers, and then application specific standards are there, right? So this is how, like, the entire ISO or ASTM standards are designed. Okay. Now, like for example, if you take ASTM F42 subcommittee, like 0.01 deals with the test methods, 0.04 design, 0.05 materials and processes, 0.06 environment, health and safety, then executive, then nil means it is they are to get finalized, right? So whereas test methods, there are already 3 existing, 4 are being planned, 2 are existing, 5 are being planned, like this. So here there are certain specific, if you take F2 test methods, so to F2971-13 standard practice for reporting data for test specimens prepared by additive manufacturing. Similarly, 14 refers to F31-22-14 standard guide for evaluating mechanical properties of metal materials made via additive manufacturing. So like this, people have defined in various subcategories, sometimes specific to a particular, like for example, AMF formats have been designed in ISO ASTM 529-15-16. Almost denotes the year in which it has been finalized. Okay, so here that is 15 standard terminology for additive manufacturing. Like for example, this ISO ASTM, this standard terminology, actually the original terminology defined by ASTM, they are now discontinuing, and in fact they are going in favor of ISO one, which we will see. So similarly, we have so many standards which have been already defined. Like for example, additive manufacturing using titanium powders with aluminum and vanadium, using powder bed fusion, like what it should be the standard specification for that particular manufacturing. Then so they are going into depth and depth in each one slowly. And for a nickel alloy there is a different standard. And then for like this, uh, like for plastic materials, and then we have for stainless steel we have one standard. And then directed energy, DED, there is a standard guide for that. And for purchased AM parts, what should look for? And then here we have ISO. What they have done is in 2015, as I said, ISO and ASTM they have come together. So they have come with what you call a combined terminology, wherein which ASTM has disbanded its own terminology in favor of this. So that's why it is called as ISO ASTM 52900 2015. So then similarly, like you have ISO 17296 edited manufacturing. See, for example, here the strategy was once they have merged together in 2015. They said like whichever standard is very good, they have adapted it, and whichever standard they feel that it is not so perfectly defined, they have discontinued. Right? So that's why these standards, for certain standards, the number starts with 52. For if it is exclusively defined by ISO, it starts with 172, and defined by ASTM, it starts with F. So F42.01 or 2939, that kind of strategy they have used. And here you can see AMF file format, it is part of F2915, which has been adopted by our okay, it is now a combined. So here you can see curved triangles, lattice structures, color. So they have been incorporated in AMF. So as we said in our first day, that curved triangles can give a better what you call approximation to a free form surface. So that has been incorporated into ISO ASTM standard 52915. Right? So like that they are trying to what you call increase the acceptability of the and make it widespread. So this, unless these standards come into picture, the industry cannot grow. But at the same time, calling all the people together and then working out the particularly now, specifically for aerospace and medical industries, there is a need for technical standards, because they are in urgently need of safety and repeatability of printed parts, as well as the integrity of the parts. So people are now concentrating on those mission critical applications where they feel that they have to be first of all evolved, because other areas, application areas, they can take their own time. So the framework will help. That framework will help global experts uh, and the national standard development organization as well as identifies gaps and this also will help duplication of efforts, right? And then so that's why we said like there is a joint plan uh, which started in 2015. And the objectives of the joint planning session and the resulting standard development plan include the following: that is, bring AM industry experts together from technical committee 261 of ISO and the ASTM of F42. Identify specific standards need common to AM industry, and then align standards roadmaps resulting in a joint roadmap to ISO TC, that is Technical Committee 261, ASTM F42 interests. So determine how the two groups can best work together, determine the priorities for specific AM standards. All right. Uh, the agreements are on one set of AM standards to be used all over the world, common roadmap and organization structure for AM standard, use and build upon existing standards, modified for AM when necessary. That means, say for example, when you are testing materials, already there is a standard for testing various kinds of materials. So when AM is using such kind of materials, for example, feedstock materials, there is a already set procedure like how to uh, control quality at the feedstock level. Like it may be metal powders or it may be polymers, which are going to be used as an AM machine. So see, if you want a quality product, probably you have to control the quality right from the entry point. So there are standards for even controlling the input quality, input raw material or feedstock. So in such cases, this existing standards can be useful. Again, AM committee need not evolve new standards for feedstock because that is has been already developed by ASTM. So that is the meaning of this particular uh, advice. For efficiency and effectiveness, should begin work together and therefore in the same direction. Emphasis on joint standard development, and then these are all anyway what do you call organization structure. What kind of things that they have done, like you say, for example, they are still in the to be convened by ISO. That means for organizing existing standards, it is the responsibility of ISO. For standard test artifacts, it is the responsibility of ASTM. So they have divided the work between themselves so that they can develop standards a bit faster than what they were doing independently. So these are some of the uh, terminology, and anyway, it is just a glance of what kind of when each standard was evolved, like 2014, 2015. It says like it is the year in which those standards have been freezed. That is the idea here. And then we have ISO CD DES, right? And guidelines for additive manufacturing, design of functionally graded. So, for example, like they are planning a separate standard for design of functionally graded additive manufactured goods parts. So, AMF. So, like this, they are doing. Like if you take this, so if you want to develop this nature-inspired product like this, uh, which is normally used in a impact testing or impact uh, like collapsible structures. If you want to, like now AM is being used, popularly used in collapsible structures, so that you protect a customer or a driver if a car get involves into an accident with high impact. So, for example, like there are the standards for how to use the AM machine for safety, types of process and calibration. Like calibration also is important for AM, and then post-process monitoring. Like we do post-processing, you know, like sometimes you have to cure the part or remove support structures which are being built. So that post-processing or chemical processing for improving the chemical or surface properties. So all that post-processing standards are also important. So this is a gives a overall idea. So data format, guidance and practice. All right.
मैडम जरा आप भी
Uh, hello.
01352342799
As of January 2015, 20 standards were developed, and some are in the development, like the working group 40419 test methods, new test methods for performance evaluation of additive manufacturing systems through measurement of manufactured test base, joint group, new guide for evaluating mechanical properties of materials made via additive manufacturing. Working group 549229, orientation and location dependence mechanical properties for editing. And then principles of design rules in additive manufacturing. This is again, it is still in the evolving stage. That is WK 54856. So, and then there is a working group working on calibration of metal powder bed fusion machines and subsystems. And then additive manufacturing general principles, standard test artifacts, like dark moon kind of standardizing them, and then powder flow properties, and then post thermal processing, metal powder bed fusion parts. So as I said, like post processing also, how much amount of curing heat or how much time you should keep in a heat treatment mode. All these have been evolved. In the future, all these general standards at broad categories, specialist categories, they are being they are still evolving. And see, when it comes to technology readiness level, I think we are still at either we are at 5 or 6. So we are still far away from a stage of deployment, that is 9 actual system proven in operational environment. So for certain things we have reached 9, but certain technologies we are still at 6 or 7. So this is what, so for every category, like for example powder bed fusion, say for the metal side, people are still working on how to refine the process parameters, and then validating processes, part performance, and how to transfer that technology to the actual production environment. So that is what. So this particular technology readiness level will we have to evaluate a technology, AM technology, in terms of this and see like where that particular technology is. And then so this is how like bird's eye view of ISO ASTM AM standards. Like it starts with the general guidance on AM, design for AM, feedstock, AM processes, material testing, post processing, and then environmental health and safety, and equipment and software. So whatever so they are evolving. Like for example, for feedstock, they have already freezed it on 2019. That means just last year. Design also freezed, and for certain equipment, they have freezed the standards. So whereas for environmental health and safety, they are yet to be freezed, and so that's why there is no year after that standard, right? See, that's why they say yet to publish. So this is the status of the various standards of ASTM. And then coming to R&D teams, say for example, what happened is this ASTM additive manufacturing committee, they have started what is so called Center for Excellence R&D. So as part of that, what they are doing is they are asking certain specific help from various agencies. Like for example, and they are offering those R&D teams to various industries. Like for example, how they are selecting the R&D teams is defined based on the input of the COE R&D team. So there is an R&D team which says like we need some inputs on this, and they are very short term. That means that R&D work should be completed within half an year or 1 year or 2 years, depending on. But it can't be just extended to 4 or 5 years. And so that's why they are highly focused, high priority, and then aligned with America Make projects. See, actually, this America Makes, see, just like Narendra Modi is doing for India, Make in India. So during Barack Obama time, what happened is he has given $1 billion to various universities under this project name America Makes Projects. He says that is the future. So what happened? In line with that objectives of that America Makes, these R&D projects are being taken up, and then the coordination and collaboration with NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. So this is the agency. This is another agency which is involved in standards. So the ASTM and NIST, this America Makes. So all these put together, they are offering various R&D projects. Probably those who are planning to do PhD, maybe you can go to the ASTM AMCOE there and see like what kind of research projects they are offering. In fact, if you go to there, like you can even download their what you call brochure to see that. Say for example, in the next slide, you can see that high priority areas. Like for example, they have already funded their own first round of projects 2018 to 19. They have launched 5 projects like metallic AM testing, post processing, AM feedstock evaluation, process qualification, polymer, and AM test. So here then we have they have found certain gaps in each area and impacting standards. These are the things that they are. Whereas here in second round to the present, like you can see how many agencies are involved. NASA, NAMIC, that is Nanyang. This is Singapore-based one. MTC, UK-based one. So there are so many multiple agencies, EWI. So all these agencies are involved. They have taken up work on behalf of ASTM to do R&D work for them and develop standards to address the needs of the ASTM. So that means still there are so much work to be done with respect to standards, and still even in 2019 to present, so many agencies are involved in this kind of standards development. And coming to certification, which we said as part of our my lecture, when certification comes, there is no standard agency like NBA for education institution, because there is no comprehensive agency which can take care of certification. Either certification for materials, parts, personnel, processes. So you know they're all interlinked. So certifying personnel, processes, materials in this under one single agency, people have found that it is very difficult to create. Or what people are doing, for example, like if you take GE, General Electric, and all these people, what they are doing is they are self-certifying. Like particularly they are developing aerospace components and they are doing self-certification. There is nothing like third party. So in fact, in some way it is okay, but sometimes it may land up they may land up in troubles, like now the Boeing company is facing when it has grounded that MAX aircraft. So regarding AM certification status, I think there are a lot of work to be done, and I think there are no full-fledged certification programs in the market who can offer certification saying that this person or this process is certified by this, and so there is nothing like ASTM is now only involved in defining the standards, but it is not a certifying agency. So there is no certifying agency, universal certifying agency, just like you have universal certifying for ISO 9000, like BVQI, some kind of third party certification. Things are not there in with respect to AM. So with this, I think I wind up my presentation. Sorry for there is a break of 10 minutes in between. I don't know, but see, I am open to questions. Okay,
Thank you, sir. Valuable question. Yeah, you can ask your any to regarding this session to question answer. Any person is open for question.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Santosh. Santosh, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sir, I want to just ask that whether there is absolute necessary to go for this certification or this following standards before we
Hello.
pick up any research problem.
Santosh, sir, you just hold on.
Yes, sir.
Sir, are you able to hear?
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
Krishnan, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the
Sir,
participant is asking one question.
yeah. Should I now speak?
Yeah. Tell me, sir.
Yeah. Sir, is it necessary to go for this certification or getting the standard before we proceed for any research work?
What is that? What do you say?
Means, is it absolute necessary to get the certification before we proceed for any research work or some work we carry out in the 3D printing area?
No, like see, as I said, like I didn't get you. What you want? What you said?
Means whether we should apply for the standards or this certification before we begin with our research work.
Oh, no. See, that is what I am saying. Still, the what do you call? There is no requirement for registering or something like that. This is only for from industry point of view.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Like as I said, like lot of see one advantage with this new areas is you need not, because the standards are not defined.
Yes.
You can freely start your research work.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, any more questions?